Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Vinny Makes the Hall of Fame Case for. And why I say that is because I don't always know who he's going to do that. Well, I do because he tells me ahead of time. I don't know who he's going to do next, but I feel really Canadian right now because he's talking hockey. He's talking my language, so much so that I brought a beer from here at Lake of the Woods, here at the Jet Pilsner. So I thought I would sort of like enjoy a frosty beverage as we talk about the father of hockey.
Yes, the one and only James Creighton himself, the man that was credited for organizing the first ever indoor ice hockey match in history back in 1875 in Montreal.
In Montreal, so long ago that was when Canada was barely a smack. Smack, is that a word?
Yes, smack is a word.
All right, well, it's a word now. So Canada, which became a country in 1867, and while I know that your country then, the United States, has sort of done exceptionally well and maybe taking over the North American mantelpiece of hockey, it still came from here. And I really like this because there's not that mysticism of Abner Doubleday like there is in hockey.
Right. And even with Abner, but even with Abner Doubleday, that whole Doubleday thing was just a myth. It was something
that's why I said mysticism.
Yes, it was complete BS.
There's not a hockey version of this. And this is a really great choice. Well, everything you do is always a great choice. I might actually have a request later, which you can say no, yes or no to later. One that we haven't talked about, or well, we have, but not for your format. But anyway, hockey, and for me personally, also as we're recording this, this is the first day of hockey free agency of the NHL, and so like that's a pretty big deal here in Canada, where that's what the sports media is all talking about, just like who's going to go where. Obviously, that's not what Mr. Creighton was sort of thinking about back then, but what was he thinking about?
Well, you see, what happened was that he's considered the father of the sport, but he never claimed the honor. But from all sources, he in fact did. You see, he moved to Montreal from Halifax, was his hometown, was where he grew up. He was he was in his early 20s at the time. And the reason why was because he wanted to try and study and work in engineering. But on his free time, he would sometimes be a figure skating judge at the Victoria Skating Club's skating rink. And, he went to McGill University, and informally he went with his friends, say, hey, let's play some ice hockey at this rink. I know it's something that's a little different. It's inside, but let's see if we can do it. And so, as a result, in March 3rd, 1875, he was the one that organized all his friends, and there would be two teams. It would be 9 people on each side, and of
which he was a player. So we should also mention
he was a player, and he was also the captain of the team.
Yeah. And McGill, for people wondering that, it's I don't want to say the Harvard of Canada, but
you can say it.
I don't know that it is or that it isn't, but in terms of longevity and importance, maybe. But it's a very big thing, because as Canada became a country, Montreal and Toronto, which still today were two biggest things. Montreal, I think at that point, a little bit of a bigger deal. And it really is so fitting if you look at the first decades of hockey. that it really came out of Quebec.
It really did. Like a lot of people thinking, Toronto and whatnot, but Montreal is the birthplace of hockey organized, and it's all because of James Creighton, who's
Mhm.
from Halifax. And so what happened was that, you know, for the game itself, he organized it, and according to his teammates, it was this exhibition which aroused city-wide interest and gave rise to the formation of other ice hockey teams, and the development of the game was rapid.
And,
It was
yeah,
completely rapid.
and to go back, the city in question again is Montreal, which that is no small feat. I mean, Montreal again, one of the fastest growing cities in Canada at that time. Uh, so it's not like we're saying okay, citywide, and we're just talking about Halifax. It may not have taken. This meant a lot more in Montreal then, as it would now,
Very much
but
so.
still, yeah. I just wanted to point that out as a Canuck. So, but anyway, go on.
He always loved hockey growing up as a child.
Mhm,
Like I said, he grew up in Halifax. He played a game that was somewhat similar called shinny
mhm.
or cricket, but sometimes it was called hockey, and it was oftentimes outdoors with many players. And back in 1877, just a couple years after he made the first ever game, he became the captain of the first ever organized hockey team in existence, the McGill University Hockey Club.
Mhm.
First one ever. And he was the captain of it. He was the leader of the first ever team in existence.
And Americans sort of like picture this sort of like when you're learning about like the history of football and how it really has its collegiate roots. Fair to say, Vin?
Yeah, it's somewhat similar. Like this is also collegiate. However, unlike football, in which the collegiate and professional sides are in different categories instead of just one big overlapping enterprise, even though that's been eroded a little bit in several years, still college and professional games still have separate Hall of Fames. However, for hockey, it's all encompasses into one.
Mhm.
So in this case, yes, he was not only the father of hockey and collegiate hockey, but just hockey, period. He also developed the rules for the indoor game in the same style of those games that he played as a child in Halifax.
Yeah.
And that was because Shinty, like I said, that was one of the nicknames for it. That was a Scottish game that his his relatives knew, like thing his parents or his
Right,
grandparents
right.
got to know, and he brought it over.
Which was a big part of Canadian, I guess we said colonization or whatever you want to call it. But
Yes.
yeah, that was a big thing with that.
Mhm.
I think what's fascinating to me is you can sort of like link him to Lord Stanley.
Mhm.
And if people are wondering, like Lord Stanley, what the Stanley Cup? Yeah. So Vin, take it from there because already you just give me a name. I just assume you already know where we're going with this. So please.
Yeah. Actually, it's because after he was done in McGill, he moved to Ottawa, which he also grew the game there substantially, and and he created in Parliament called the Rideau Hall Rebels. In fact, there was many pictures of him as a part of it, and he was worked there as a law clerk in the Canada Senate for 48 years. While there, he befriended two teammates named Edward and Arthur Stanley, and those two were the sons of Governor General Lord Frederick Stanley. That's right, Lord Stanley himself.
Mhm.
Stanley Cup, Frederick Stanley, the honorary Frederick Stanley, 16th Earl of Derby. Those were his two sons. And James Creighton, the James Naismith of ice hockey, was very close friends with him.
Yeah, and I think also too, when we're looking at that, a for our American friends who are wondering what the Governor General is, American friends, you included, and I don't know how you know if you know how this works. You probably do because you're awesome and you know a lot. But
Yes.
in Canada and in a lot of Commonwealth countries, there the Governor General is essentially the representative to the UK, which right now is pretty flippin' worthless, but back then it wasn't.
Yes, because I know from the Governor General, as an American whose only information of how a Governor General is JJ McCullough's videos. Basically, it's just an honorary title, if anything.
Well,
It's
now
like,
it is, but back then it wasn't.
yeah, oh, back then it obviously wasn't, but now it's mostly an honorary title. And it was the representative of the UK for Canada and other Commonwealth countries like Australia and so on and so forth. But in 1892, Stanley presented a trophy,
Mhm.
and it was involved the same team, and it was called the Dominion Hockey Challenge Cup. And that cup is still around today as the Stanley Cup. And now back then it was to designate the amateur ice hockey championship in Canada and include the Riddell Hall Rebels. Yeah,
The
I'm not
greatest
joking.
trophy in all of sports.
Definitely the
I'm not
largest.
saying the most important. I'm just saying the greatest trophy.
I'd say so. And
Yeah.
personally, now you're probably asking yourself, this guy is not in the Hall of Fame.
Well, okay, but before we go there, Vin, so he is in the Canada Sports Hall of Fame, and
Yes,
yet, and
2015.
that, but yeah, 2015, and that's fascinating to me because I did not realize that. So he's a later inductee to the Canada Sports Hall of Fame,
Yeah.
which is strange when you think about it. Also, too, the Montreal Forum, not the Forum, the Bell Center, sorry. They've also recently, recently in the last 10 years, have a plaque dedicated to Creighton's work. But okay, growing up in Canada, learning about the history of hockey, this man's name never came up, ever.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I knew about him until I was well into my 20s. So Canada, the country that obviously the hotbed of hockey, has done a shit job promoting the man who you have presented as the father of hockey, who his peers have said the same. Is that pretty much why he's not in? Is that simple? I think so. No.
It's because it took a very, very, very long time, and a lot of people just didn't really know about him. It's very similar to Doc Adams for baseball, but it actually took a whole group of people, the Society for International Hockey Research. This is a network of statisticians, collectors, broadcasters, fans, everyone in general. It's based in Toronto, and they cultivate and they encourage people to study so much about ice hockey. And they are most prominent for finding the origins of hockey itself. And they were the ones that looked to raise the campaign in 2008 to erect a monument of James Creighton. And they got it unveiled and got a proper grave marker, as well as a biographical plaque near the gravesite where Creighton was buried. Like, this group of people were huge. And as for who was prominent in making this possible, Stephen Harper, who was the Prime Minister of Canada at the time, he
Very true.
also
Yeah.
unveiled the plaque in Bell Center. The
Yes.
crew
Yes.
of the
Thank you. Yeah.
HMCS Vancouver,
Yeah.
and two owners of the time from the NHL, Harley Hotchkiss, of course, the former owner, Hall of Famer of the Calgary Flames, and another late owner, the Senators owner, Eugene Milnick, who just recently passed away. These two men and the crew and Stephen Harper, as well as the entire Society for International Hockey Research, made it possible for a monument to be made in the gravesite of the literal father of hockey. The Canada Sports Hall of Fame added him in 2015, and even going back further, in his hometown province of Nova Scotia, he was inducted in the Nova Scotia Sports Hall of Fame as the father of hockey, 1993. But yet, years and years later, after creating the sport in 1875, no joke, 150 years later, the Hockey Hall of Fame still said, yeah.
Well,
I don't get it.
Okay, but are they saying that because they're just like, Who is this guy? Because like the Hockey Hall of Fame, as we talked about in a previous committee that we have, it's not a large committee. Uh, from what I can tell, I don't. There's writers, former players, whatnot. Are there historians? I don't think so.
I don't think so. Like I was saying, Stephen Harper, if I recall, he actually created a book about the history of hockey. Like
Stephen
after he
Harper
came
did
out, like
that.
yeah, Stephen Harper actually did write a book about hockey. Yeah, like
I
the
didn't know
actual
that. Okay.
yeah the he it was called he was the a great game, the Forgotten Leafs and the Rise of Professional Hockey. Yeah, Stephen Harper.
Former Prime
That
Minister of Canada did this.
yes,
Huh.
yes, he actually did.
I love it when an American teaches me about Canadian history.
Yeah, I'm not even
Why
joking.
not? No, I believe you. Well, why would you lie? You don't lie.
Yeah, this man, not only he really did embody Canada. After all, he was a hockey historian and a prime minister.
Makes him a little bit more awesome in my eyes. Not that I want to go all political.
Yeah.
Not on this show. Vinny and I will do that offline, but
Mhm.
not right now. So, do you think, and I think, well, I'll tell you my answer right now, which is no. Do you think that the Hockey Hall of Fame will ever sort of look at this guy?
It's going to take some more. It's going to take more of an effort from historians, and it's going to listen when you
Which
even
there
get
aren't
to.
any, I don't think.
Yeah, I think what it's really going to need is people from Canada understanding about this guy's history more so. And
Mm.
I would also say it really needs to come from a real push from hockey historians and just people in Canada as a whole. I mean, you would think that if hockey is such a religion in Canada, you would think this would be the person they're gunning for the most,
This is
but they're
not what
not.
we were taught. No, we were not sort of like taught a lot about this. And then two, sort of like, I guess maybe the woke media, whatever you want to call it. And you and I have talked about this before,
Mhm.
offline or maybe even on a previous show. Uh, Willie O'Ree, who entered the Hockey Hall of Fame, was it last year?
A few years ago.
Yeah, the first African, I guess, well, I don't want to say
You could say black
Oh,
hockey player, first black
sure.
hockey player.
Yeah.
You can
Okay.
say it.
Yeah. I was not taught about him either. Like as we were growing up in Canada. So like, and when you hear about the history of hockey, I cannot. And I'm just going by my personal experience for what that's worth. But Willie's name wasn't brought up. Uh, you and I also talked about how very happy we were about the recent addition of like another person as a builder.
Bud Fowler.
Hmm?
Bud Fowler for baseball.
No, in hockey.
Oh, I forgot his name. The builder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who actually predated Willie O'Ree. So like there's certainly blind spots all across, if you want to call it a political aisle, if you want. Like,
Herb Carnegie. That's who it was. It was Herb Carnegie.
yeah, thank you. So it's all over the place, and just sometimes people slip through a crack for whatever
Hmm.
reason. I mean, I think we kind of know what happened with Willie O'Ree for years,
Yeah.
and
Same Carnegie.
yes, and for Mr. Carnegie. For this one, I don't know. I got nothing. I got
Yeah.
no theory at all, other than
I,
the fact that like what if he would have came up with the damn cup? Then he's in,
well,
because Lord Stanley is in the Hall of Fame.
yeah. I mean, and this guy was, yeah, Stanley created the trophy itself, but he didn't create the actual game. James Creighton
Right,
created
right.
the actual game.
No, no, totally. But I mean, like it's a different thing. And then I learned about Lord Stanley in my learning as a Canadian. I did not learn about Mr. Creighton at all.
Were you taught that Lord Stanley created the sport?
No. Uh, well, we weren't taught that in school, but I mean, like in terms of like from what I remember in the 80s, just trying to learn about things because there was no internet then. Sorry, right? So it's like you're getting whatever you can. So you just learn that Lord Stanley created the cup. You don't know about who he is and how he thought of it.
Yeah, I mean,
You know what I
it's
mean?
odd.
Well, it kind of is, but I mean, like again, back then, Canada, we're not exactly a country where we sort of like come up with mythical and mystical heroes. We don't do that.
I mean, Terry Fox is an example.
Well, Terry, yeah, but Terry Fox was it? No, but Terry Fox actually did something that we all saw.
It's true, and he
Nobody
predated
saw
Creighton
after
by
Doubleday.
yeah, and even then, like Doubleday that was fake, and with Fox that came a century after James Creighton.
Yeah, but
Like,
yeah, but Terry Fox also too. I mean, like Canada's also a country that was always looking, not anymore, but for years we're looking for American approval. And then maybe that's a conversation for another day. But uh, I mean, like, it wasn't all that long ago. You and I talked about Frank Zamboni. There was a great person that you brought up on your show. Uh, and I said to you then, and the more I thought about it, I think the more I'm right. If Frank Zamboni was Canadian, he would have been in the Hockey Hall of Fame already years ago.
mhm.
Here we have a Canadian who essentially was the guy. I don't want to say the Ralph Hay, but I mean, like, but somebody who was
He was the Walter Camp, or in my case, the Oliver David Thompson.
okay. Yeah, I like that. So yeah, in terms of the promotion of it, and he is non-existent in Canadian history, literally non-existent.
It's just so weird to me, the fact that it just so weird, just thinking of, like, you would think this is the guy that pushed front forth, but it's not. He's not
Yeah, but
there.
then for me too, I mean, this is my country, and I never thought about it until you brought it up.
It's just, I mean, even
I
people in,
literally,
like,
I never thought about it until you
yeah,
said, this is the guy we're going to do. And it's like, huh.
it just doesn't make any sense. Like, even people in, like Halifax doesn't have a team, but you don't even see pushing for them, and in Montreal as well. And they erected a plaque near him. Like, I feel honestly, if I'm gonna be blunt, if anyone's gonna push for this case, I think you might need to get Stephen Harper back. You might have to get him. Maybe he can work out some with Trudeau. Maybe they can make a
Oh
patch
yeah, that'll
demanding.
happen.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Trudeau will only say like, I'm so sorry. Maybe we can do this. Unfortunately, we're not sure that if he was a part of the LGBT community. I'm not ripping on that, but I'm ripping on Trudeau. So I just want to be very clear on that. But or
Yeah, but
insult me if you want. I've had death
no,
threats.
listen. I'm chill. I
But
don't care.
yeah, but no, but I mean like that like that's something that is wasn't taught then, wasn't taught now. And sometimes like revisionist history, we forget about other people who were actually part of a majority.
Yeah, I was saying Trudeau mostly because he is from Montreal,
Oh,
and
Trudeau's a fucking clown. Sorry. Did I get there? All right,
no, it's okay.
I'm not going to go into that. I've got other shows where I do that.
No, don't worry. But in general, like, people in Montreal, listen, you love your poutine, you love your Canadians, but you love your
Poutine
maple
is
syrup.
awesome. I will not have you denigrate the great name of the food of poutine.
Oh no, I'm not denigrating
You
poutine.
better
I think
not.
poutine's why would I disagree something delicious? I said, listen, you guys love your Canadians, your poutine, your maple syrup,
No,
but you also got to do this stuff too.
it's
You
so
got to
true.
do this stuff.
It's so true. Do we have anything else before? Can I give you a request? And you can say no.
Well, it depends on what it is.
Clark Shaughnessy.
Oh, I'm going to say yes to that.
I want to do a deep dive on Clark Shaughnessy, who was nominated for the Pro Football Hall of Fame in the semifinals.
Well, I'm definitely going to go into that. I definitely want to do that one.
All right, cool. All right, so with that, then any last thoughts here?
Yeah. Like, it just fits that I do hockey related on the day of free agency. And like, I think that just literally no better than the man that literally made hockey a thing. It just seems perfect.
No, it's a great one. So with that, if you haven't sort of like voted on the United States Athletic Hall of Fame, which is something that Vinny and I are a part of, do so. www.notinhalloffame.com/USA. And what that basically is just the way it sounds. The great state, the great nation, let's say great state, the great nation of the United States, the most sports-centric country in the world. Would you agree with that, Ben?
I would say that America is extremely sports centered. However, I would say that even our dedication to certain sports probably does not compare to how other countries are
Mhm.
with their soccer and hockey, or like in the case of Lithuania, basketball. However, I would still say in
Okay,
terms
but
of,
just sports-centric.
yes,
Okay,
absolutely, especially in certain areas like
there
New
we go.
England and whatnot.
There we go. So like we helped create the United States Athletic Hall of Fame, which, hey, nobody came up with that. We did. So vote on that. And you can vote every day. And that the first class is going to come out this fall. And the cool thing about it is Vinny and I were part of a group of Olympians and former athletes, including Richmond Webb with the Miami Dolphins, uh, who we decided who was the nominees. We're not deciding who the inductees are. That's up to you guys. So please vote. You know, it's something very important to us. Also, too, there's the Hall of Fame show that Evan Nolan and I do, where we look at Hall of Fame related news. And every now and then I do pop culture stuff. Hey, last night I did a show about Debbie Boone. Do you know who that is, Vin?
I know people with the last name Boone. I know Daniel Boone. I know Aaron Boone. I know other people named Boone
Okay.
that,
All right. Well,
but I don't know. But Debbie, I'm not too sure of.
all right. Well, Debbie Boone in 1978 had a #1 song called "You Light Up My Life."
Heard of that song?
Yeah, it's a piece of shit. So, anyways, we looked at that and how that sort of became #1.
Guessing she didn't have any other hits afterwards.
Not a single one. But she is the daughter of Pat Boone, who had many #1 hits.
I know Pat Boone. I know
Yeah,
Pat
well,
Boone.
that's the daughter. So there's that. There's all so much more. All that on the Bucknerverse. I'm gonna do this here. The Bucknerverse.
Your
So with
heart out,
that,
Marvel.
there you go. Wherever you are, wherever you may be, stay safe, everyone.